Hi everyone, my name is Bernadette Grafton and I'm here with Dan Ripke and special guest from EDA, Nancy Gilbert is here with us. Welcome to another webinar that is done in conjunction with the Educational Association of University Centers. We're excited to share with you all of this information that we have today, and we hope that we'll have a good amount of time for questions that you all may have regarding the topic of today or anything else. I know this is a very interesting time that we're all going through right now, and we've all got a lot on our plates, and I'd be interested to hear from you all who are working in the field how COVID-19 and everything is affecting you. So I'm hoping we can start some good dialogue, but I just want to welcome you all to this webinar, and I'm gonna turn it over to Dan to cover some EAUC items. He'll give you a few updates, and then I've got a couple of things that I'm going to address regarding EDA before we turn it over to Nancy for the bulk of this webinar. Dan?
Great. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on what part of the country you're in. Just a real quick update on behalf of the EAUC. As everyone knows, we had to cancel the conference in DC earlier this month. It was a good call in terms of it was the day before, the week before the event. We were hemming and hawing on whether or not we should cancel. It was actually a good call because about 2 days later, they ended up shutting down a lot of the university's ability to travel around the country. So we're happy we were able to do that, and we're happy we were able to make sure everyone got a reimbursement for their hotel, etc. We are taking advantage of this time in terms of the downtime with the AUC to work on developing kind of a legislative agenda, trying to look to see what funds may be available to may be able to augment the University Center program. So that's something we're working on, as well as we are working on a newsletter for the association. We are building up the members-only web content that we will have available on the eauc.org website. And then we are also working right now on a joint session that we did last year in Reno with the University Economic Development Association. We are planning on the University Economic Development Annual Conference in Savannah being a go for September 20th, which is starting on Sunday. And so just like in Reno, we will have a couple-hour pre-session and lunch there in Savannah, Georgia. So please mark your calendars now. We'd love to have you join us there in Savannah, as well as hopefully being able to stick around for the whole the UEDA conference. So the other item that I wanted to mention is that the EAUC is on the lookout for new board members. And so I will be sending out an email to everyone who is on the call with a link to either nominate someone that you know, someone in your office, or yourself to take over a board position. Basically what we're looking for is someone, we want to have one person representing at least each of the EDA district offices. So one person from each one of those regions. And we then also have the positions of president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. So the deadline we're looking for nominations is April 3rd, which is a week from this coming Friday. And then we'll have the voting take place with the paid membership later on in the month of April. So thank you, and we look forward to hearing from you. If any of you would like to know more information about being on the board, please send me a direct email. Again, I'm going to email everyone here on this conference call right after the call. So you'll have my email address to send any questions. Thanks. Thanks, Bernadette.
Awesome. Does anyone have any questions for Dan before we move on? If you do, feel free to type them into the Q&A box. That'll probably be the easiest way for us to address your questions. And as we go through the presentation today, please type in your questions as you have them. We'll address them as quickly as we can. So there is one question, Dan. Do you know the full dates of the conference?
Yeah, so the conference in Savannah, it starts on the evening of the 20th, which is September 20th, and then it goes all day on Monday and Tuesday. That would be the 21st and the 22nd. And then there's traditionally, on the 23rd, the Wednesday, there's a board meeting. So a number of people usually stick around for that as well. So, and I'm not sure, they're still arranging for a lot of the tours and special events. So typically we encourage people to arrive on Sunday and plan on leaving on probably Wednesday. So in terms of planning your travel. There is more information on the EDA website, which is universityeda.org. So.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, a couple updates from EDA. Just wanted to address COVID-19 and EDA's position right now. I mean, we're continuing to follow the guidance closely from CDC and OMB and other relevant sources. We're continuing to do our work remotely across the nation and trying to be as productive as we can right now. So hang in there. If we're not as responsive as we'd like to be, I apologize. We're doing what we can. In some cases, we're even being more responsive. But I just wanted to spend a second just letting you know that we do understand the concerns that are facing grantees, including university centers across the country. And I know that you're anxious to provide some kind of response or relief type technical assistance and support your communities. So we just wanted to acknowledge that, but also let you know that we're actively working to develop guidance and FAQs right now that will be published on our website as soon as we can. We're working through that. It's a priority of EDA. So in the meantime, you should work closely with your regional office for any specific guidance you're looking for. Your regional points of contact are your best advocates right now. So just be in close communication with them if you have any concerns or questions, and we'll make sure that we get you an answer as quickly as we can. So just also a reminder that we've got the two NOFOs out there for FY18 and FY19 disaster supplemental release. So we've got on the screen, you can see what each of those covers. We're still trying to push those funds out the door. So just wanted to make sure that you're aware so you can also spread that news to your communities to make sure that they are aware if that is applicable to them. Other than that, I don't have any other specific updates from the EDA for this month, but I just want to go ahead and turn it over to Nancy so that we can spend the rest of our time talking about EDI and what's going on there. So I'm going to give her remote control.
Okay. Did that work? It worked for a second. I saw it. Don't see it again. There we go.
Oh, good.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Bernadette, for inviting me and our Economic Development Integration and Disaster Recovery Assistance team here at EDA to share with you and maybe reintroduce some of the assistance that we provide at EDA, which extends the type of financial assistance we offer through our various grant programs. And this is a capacity that the agency has always had, but started in earnest with some dedicated staff whose full-time job it is to work with our EDA staff, our federal partners, and of course our stakeholders to help them access the full suite of federal resources for economic development that are within EDA and that extend well beyond EDA. So my name is Nancy Gilbert. I'm the Senior Program Analyst with the Economic Development Integration Team at EDA headquarters in Washington, D.C. Doug Leinott is the director of our team here, and we also have a regional integrator, or EDI, in each of our 6 regional offices, and several of them are joining us on the phone today. Let me see if I can advance. So just to begin with, I think most of you are familiar with EDA's suite of flexible federal programs and funding opportunities here. And they're shown on the screen here. We've got generally programs that can assist in different areas. Most of them, of course, accept rolling applications from our eligible applicants. Build to scale is an exception. There are some other exceptions. That one recently had a funding opportunity close for its pitch decks yesterday, I think on March 24th. So those of you who put in that initial proposal to that program will be receiving feedback and then move on to the next phase of that. All of our programs are available and a description of them on our webpage, and we put the link here. And of course, our current funding opportunities, such as those for disaster assistance that Bernadette mentioned earlier, are linked on the bottom. And we update those when we have new updates, but of course, applications are accepted on a rolling basis. And those programs, I'm trying to advance the slide here, so bear with me. Doesn't seem to be going. Bernadette, do you think you can move that forward for me? Thank you. Most of those EDA programs are very familiar to you, but they're also ones in which our EDA regional offices really have the expertise in helping stakeholders move through the process of applying for those grants for EDA funding opportunities. And of course, knowing the wide range of eligible activities that can cover, that those funds can cover. So do see our regional staff for technical guidance on those. And of course, the regional offices are the ones that make the funding decisions, so they are your key partners there. It's important to know that we also have other resources available on our website and tools, including information about awards that we've made in the past. And those can help be a resource to you and the stakeholders in your regions, look at what kind of funding EDA has made in the past that may help them get a sense of where their projects might also fit, or just knowing what resources are in their community already. And so we've included here a link to some of the areas on our webpage where you can find a listing of awards that EDA has made from our core programs in the past. That's the first link for 2012 to 2018 award data. We also have a separate place where we've identified all the disaster recovery awards that we've made, and we have another link there which features awards that EDA has made to support projects in opportunity zones. And I'm emphasizing these here because we really are urging kind of coordination of resources at the regional level, and that's a role that we want all of our stakeholders to take on to see where we have investments and where those can align with other federal, state, and local investments. You'll see a banner at the top here. As Bernadette mentioned, there are a lot of resources that may be coming down the pike to support communities that are really shifting their current normal, I guess, in light of the economic effects of the coronavirus, as well as, of course, the health effects. And so the one site that you'll see linked now on EDA's webpage and most federal web pages is where a lot of these resources are being compiled and organized under www.usa.gov/coronavirus. So consider that sort of a central clearinghouse at the moment for what resources are available, including, for example, the SBA economic injury disaster loans that may be available in certain places already. Finally, on this page, a few other tools, just to reiterate, I think most of you are familiar with these, but we do like to highlight the fact that we have, in addition to grant funding programs, we've got ways to keep in touch with EDA's partners through our resource directory by state, the great resources, the guidance in SEDS, the Stats America resources, including a new mapping tool for opportunity zones, and of course, performance data on how we've done with our investments in the past are also linked here. So let's see, can I move to the next slide, or can Bernadette help me? Thank you. So in addition to EDA resources, which many of you are familiar with, the Economic Development Integration mission is to focus on the full suite of federal programs and funding for economic development. We did some early research and found that there's over 130 federal programs supporting different aspects of economic development, from workforce to transportation to capital access. And we compiled some of these resources in a kind of simplified Excel spreadsheet. It's lengthy, but it has on it that list of programs as they are found in the Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance. So that's a pretty static way of finding those. The names do change as time goes by, so we also have a program link where you can get right to the program page and see whether or not they're offering funding for that program right now, but it'll give you a sense of what might be available, and we have some quick sorting categories there. Many of these agencies really have complementary missions to EDA, so we work with them quite a bit. We have shared stakeholders, and this is what the Economic Development Integration Assistance is intended to do, is help you find those complementary resources and how to connect with them through the regional, state, or local offices of those federal partners. So there are also, it's important to note that there are some programs out there which actually have incentives to encourage alignment of federal resources, funding, assistance, technical assistance. The question is, what are these and how do you navigate those? So on the next slide, we have a nice graphic here where we try to characterize what we're all about, and really in the center there is we're about coordinating federal investments to support strong regional economies. We do this in several ways. We are looking to assist with helping increase your access to the resources that are available and capacity to use them. We want to work with you to align those resources so that they can have collective impact in your communities. That way we can optimize the investments that we make through the federal sphere, and also those investments that you are bringing to the table through your own technical guidance, your own organizations, and with state and local resources, as well as those of the private sector. The other aspect that the EDI work tackles or tries to tackle is to streamline requirements, because we know occasionally these can conflict between different program areas of the federal government. And so where we can, we're looking for ways to work with you to identify how we might either sync up reporting cycles, perhaps we can help ways in which we can align the plans that happen at the regional level, so that we can really reduce the burden on our stakeholders. So on the next slide, this is just a reiteration of why we're trying to do this, and this has a little bit of, if you click, what I would be doing here is clicking the buttons here, and it would show some animation here. This is what we're all about. Thank you. This is what we're all about. If we go back to that, we're all about interagency collaboration, program alignment, and resource coordination. And we do this through the capacity of our regional economic development integrators. I have some contact information for them at the end of the presentation. We are constantly building and refreshing our interagency partnerships with key agencies like USDA, the Department of Labor, Small Business Administration, and others that are relevant to you. We make those connections in many ways. One of the most visible ways I'll spend some time on, which are our Regional Economic Diversification Summits, also known as REDS, and Federal Information Exchange events, which is where we bring our federal partners to a table that you set in the regional level, our stakeholders, whether they be state or local governments, university centers, economic development districts, and we can kind of host and facilitate that exchange of information and also get to work on aligning our programs. Our regional integrators are also available for referrals and to help cross-promote our aligned resources. We also do this, of course, in partnership with our economic development representatives. We have a number of resources that we use to help support this function. Here at headquarters, we pull together kind of the latest in federal funding opportunities and share those out through our regional offices, and a lot of those you might see come into your hands as they come through the economic development integrators, as well as our EDRs and other folks. So that's a kind of a listing of compiling current federal opportunities. There are so many of them, and we try and pick out the ones most applicable to you. Again, I mentioned that matrix of complementary federal programs and contacts. You can use that for your planning. And we have some guidance on our website, which is on EDI's website. There is an economic development integration set of pages there. One of the pages has guidance on regional plan alignment, and so that's bringing together the SEDS plan with other regional plans of other agencies, like a hazard mitigation plan from FEMA, a transportation plan, or importantly, we see some real opportunities for alignment with HUD's consolidated plan, and so we did some time crosswalking that, and you'll see that information on our webpage. So on the next slide, which is here, I just wanted to iterate here that there are already a number of university centers who have been great partners with us in these integration events, and they have helped us with the goals that I mentioned before. In terms of regional plan alignment, one of our early collaborators, I guess, on this integration work that we've been doing was in our Seattle Regional Office in 2018. Our integrator there, Francis Sakaguchi, worked with the University of Nevada at Reno to help align and leverage the work that they were doing for a regional SEDS plan with USDA's planning resources for its Stronger Economies Together program. Whoa. And that, I think, resulted in what we would like to see, which is one set of federal resources for regional planning, really augmenting and leveraging another set in our SEDS work. Similarly, in the Denver Regional Office, one of our EDDs and was working with our regional integrator there and had a whole component with university centers to feature those resources for a new audience. And we have 4 university centers participating in that event. And I think as a result of that, some of our newer university centers, in this case, for example, I think it was South Dakota State University, was able to have good discussions with Iowa State University and others about how they might work together. So really fostering that kind of collaboration. Similar universities can provide similar tools and leverage each other. Again, our Southeast Utah Council of Governments there held a Regional Economic Diversification Summit that Dixie State University and Southern Utah University attended, and out of that they put in an application to our Denver Regional Office for a university center application. They worked on it together, and really this is one of the, I think the only combined, to my knowledge, university center applications we have. So that was a direct benefit that came out of one of these events. And then lastly, just really what these regional economic diversification summits are about is catalyzing project implementation. So bringing resources together to really jumpstart that sharing of resources. And that was certainly an outcome of one of the events that was held last year in John Day, Oregon, where they were able to feature their Innovation Center project there to a number of federal agencies that our regional integrator brought to the table there. The University of Oregon was a host, a convener, a presenter, and really an important facilitator there for that event with the city of John Day that drew a lot of attention to the projects that they were trying to accomplish in their SEDS plan. So next slide as we move along. This just shows you, we know that different communities are on a different continuum of where they're at with either their capacity to convene and move projects forward, to access resources. And so the integration assistance that they might be looking for can vary quite a bit, and we're here to work with you on what makes sense for the communities that you're working with. So it could be just some referrals, what can help with the EDA funding. If EDA is not right, who else might have that within the federal government in terms of referrals. Those with more capacity might want to host an information exchange or disaster recovery workshop if that's of relevance. And then for those communities that are further along the continuum and really know what they want to accomplish, that might be where we would work with a university center, an EDD, or other stakeholders to pull off one of these regional economic diversification summits. And I'll share with you on the next couple slides more detail about what these mean when they take place. So for this first one, you know, what is, we call it a FIRE. It's a Federal Interagency Resource Exchange. It's really not just federal. We call it federal because that's who we are, but it's where we work with stakeholders to bring federal resources from our side of the fence, as well as state and local resources, private sector philanthropy too. And the purpose here is to exchange information about what the communities are looking for, what resources might be available, and make those contacts. So if you, I think there's a couple more bullet points to emphasize here, who participates in those and who benefits from a FIRE. Well, in this case, I mentioned who participates. It's hosted by a local organization. So that's where we might look to a university center, an EDD, a state or local government, and working oftentimes in concert with the private sector, a chamber of commerce, to convene partners around a particular issue facing that region, and then we can bring the right federal stakeholders to that. And the benefit here is really the knowledge exchange and the connections. So here's a slide that just really talks about the process in more detail. I know you'll get a copy of these slides afterwards, but it just really does show you some of the players here that would be convened in these events, what they might be talking about here in terms of available resources, initiatives going on, initiatives that we might have on the federal side, but also that will plug into your local opportunities. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to establish some relationships for going forward so that folks know how to move to the next step. It's a basis for trust and cooperation, and really the foundation for ongoing collaboration. So that's the FIRE event. The next one that we wanted to talk with you about are Regional Economic Diversification Summits, or REDS. And really the primary purpose here and the difference is that we're really trying to help you catalyze the implementation of multiple projects for your region. So you've already gone through the process of planning, you know what you want to achieve on a regional level, but what you would like to do is have some folks come together and really work through how do we move this, these ideas, these plans into implementation stage, getting the resources together and talking about how we might move through any other barriers or challenges that we would have. So the objectives are the same here: enhanced collaboration. We're really looking for the right partners. We're looking to reduce administrative burden and increase your access to resources here. So a reduced administrative burden can often mean that we're talking about how you are going to work together to kind of lay out what programs and resources you might go after in a continuum, one by one, what makes sense. And we're looking really here for the optimal resource alignment. So really how to use state, federal, and local resources to the best of their ability to help you scale and move forward with regional strategies. So what comes out of these is the last point here to make, which is some action plans. So really this is a convening that has a lot of work on the upfront to plan for it so that it brings the right partners to the table. You know what you want to talk about based on your local strategies. It's all locally driven, of course. We're here to support it. And then out of it, we really want to maintain this sense that there will be continued ongoing work together in small groups with the players who came to take action on those plans. And we're going to continue to stay in touch so that we can evaluate what has happened as a result. So we're interested in outcomes, obviously, from these events. On the next slide, We want to answer a question, you know, is this an EDA program? No. Do we have additional funding for this? No, not really. But what we're offering here is a resource. So it's not a federal government event. It's your event. It's your priorities in the region, strategic priorities. It's intended to be a local and regional process, and we are here to provide that stakeholders support through the connections that we have and our ability to kind of understand, navigate, and know how to talk the federal language of these programs in some detail. So mentioned here again, potential hosts and sponsors of these events are all of our normal partners, and I'm highlighting university centers. As I mentioned before, many of you have already been in that role. So on the next, this slide here, we really want to reemphasize that when we offer to engage with you in these kind of convenings for the REDS event, which is different maybe from the earlier event of a federal information resource exchange, which may be just a one convening and then maybe doesn't have as much of a tail to it. The REDS process really is an expectation that we're going to spend a lot of time thinking about what we want to do together, to be there at the convening, at the summit participation, to have active participation. What can we all do together? How can we solve problems together? What needs to be done? What resources are available? So a lot of sharing at that summit, but also continued engagement. And we like to call these project action teams because we want to emphasize the fact that the locality needs to identify, you know, who's going to take action on these different projects that might be part of a comprehensive economic development strategy for your region, and how can we help support those action teams who again be in a support role. When you get to the process of you're ready to submit an application, of course you go through that normal project process, but there may be some of that who do I submit this to? When do I submit this? How is it different or the same from other federal resources? So again, just a caveat here, we do not have money for convening, and it's not a grant program. If you do have one of these convenings, it really has to meet your local needs. It has to be something that you see as valuable to your collaboration and coordination role in the community and what you're trying to accomplish, because participation in a REDS is voluntary and it doesn't indicate that you've been pre-selected for any particular type of federal funding. It's just really a means for us to partner more directly with our local and regional stakeholders to support the implementation of your diversification plans for economic development. So on the next slide, just here, a couple more examples of where these have taken place and have been very successful. Just mentioned for Weirton, West Virginia, we did get some feedback that it really helped make those connections of multiple projects, putting them on the table. We had a lot of private sector engagement here, so that was another way to really focus on the collaboration that's needed to get these projects fully funded with private investment, jobs, and the kind of outcomes that you want to seek. Likewise, Port Townsend, Washington REDS, it was really an opportunity for them to have that catalyzing moment to bring parties together in a physical way and also have them working together afterwards on project implementation. I think you might be able to see our regional integrator, Francis Sakaguchi, in the background of that little picture in the corner there. So on the next slide, I did want to feature the people who are behind the process right now in our regional offices. In Atlanta, we just had a change in staffing there. So our regional director, Phil Paradise, is available to help connect with anyone who is looking to do any kind of integration events with us or have integration assistance and access to other federal resources. You can also email us at edi.eda for the Atlanta Regional Office. And of course, you can also contact any of the EDA Regional Economic Development representatives. They all know about our EDI assistance and can help connect you with that capacity in the regional office. But here's some of the other folks. In Austin, Robert Pichet is also the EDR for Texas, and he is serving in interim capacity right now as a regional integrator. He has a lot of experience, particularly through Hurricane Harvey and some of the aftermath of other federal agencies. And just shout out here to some of our other regional integrators. Carla Ann Unger in our Chicago Regional Office has joined us on the call today, I believe. In Denver, Zach Graves has been doing double duty with some of the Midwest floods. So again, a lot of experience in our integrator team here. Matthew Sukadolski is in our Philadelphia Regional Office. I think he's also on the phone. And Francis Sakaguchi in our Seattle Regional Office are all available. Their numbers and email is here, and they can also be reached through your traditional contacts in our economic development representatives. So I think the next slide is possibly my last slide, and just a reiteration of the resources that we have, both in general in EDA to help you find resources, look at projects. Again, ones that I mentioned here before, but also here's our EDI webpage here at eda.gov/EDI, and you'll see a number of other resource pages connected to that. We do have a quick brochure about the Regional Economic Diversification Summit process, what it entails, what kind of outcomes you should be looking for, and how to take the next step in working with us on those. So do check that out there. We have some news from some past REDS events as well that might be of interest. And of course, you can find contacts to your economic development representatives in the regional offices here on this website. Doug Leinitz, our EDI director. I am Nancy. My email is there. Also wanted to mention that part of our unit includes EDA's Disaster Recovery National Coordinator, Naomi Friedman, and we do work closely, especially in disaster areas, through our economic recovery support function that EDA also leads. So that is another way in which we can help coordinate resources, particularly in those hard-hit areas that are dealing with natural disasters. And we will see how this all rolls forward as we cope with the national disaster response to the current situation. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Really, this is an opportunity to invite you all as university centers and such important partners of EDA's to know that we have some resources within our economic development integration team to help you connect with those federal partners that can help you serve your communities better. So that's the message. I'm happy to take questions. I'm also happy to bounce questions out to our regional integrators through the chat box. We can certainly have them follow up with anybody on the phone here. So Bernadette, Dan, I'll turn it back over to you all now.
Thank you so much, Nancy. That was a lot of great information, and I'm hoping that some food for thought for folks on the phone. We did get one question come in from Sherry Soliday. She said that they're working with a municipality that seeks technical assistance for feasibility and expansion of their incubator facility. Does EDI assist with identifying a good or best approach to pursuing EDA and other federal funding opportunities that can help fund recommendations resulting from the feasibility study?
Right. So two parts, I think, to that question, which is a great question, and I'm sure something that a lot of folks are dealing with. On the one hand, I would say that, again, let me just clarify that the economic development integration assistance that we provide is sort of in addition to enhanced technical assistance, if you will, our direct line of resources, which are economic development representatives. So I would say that the first question that you would pose would be to the economic development representative, EDA's person for your state or area, because they can tell you whether or not EDA may have some resources that can help with that next stage after a feasibility study is done, whether there's an implementation project there that we might be able to look at. If it's not something that we can look at, that's where the EDR can work together with the economic development integrator to see if we're aware of other resources that might be available right now from one of our federal partners. And it really depends on kind of what the project is with regard to you know, the incubators and other type of entrepreneurship projects like that. So they can have that conversation. It always is good to have it directly with the team of EDAs, economic development representatives, and the EDI, if that makes sense, so that we can understand the nuances of those projects you're looking to do, where you're at, because that will also depend on the resources, whether it's a rural area. We have a lot of friends at the USDA, Rural Development, who may be able to join a conversation like that.
Great. Thank you, Nancy. If anyone else has any questions for Nancy, feel free to type them in the chat box or Q&A, or raise your hand and I can unmute you. So you'll have a couple of minutes to think about questions, but just want to move forward for a second while you're thinking. Just a couple of reminders that this was recorded as always, and a video of this webinar will be posted on EDA's website on our University Center webpage within the next, I'm hoping within the next week. It might take a little bit longer, just depends on our capacity to get that up there. And we'll be sharing that on social media. And I believe Dan will also get that recording up on EAUC's website.
Yes, and we'll send the link out to everyone.
Great. Yes, and the slides will be available as well, so that you have access to all the links and resources that were shared by Nancy. There were a lot of great resources. I encourage you all to check them out. Don't forget, Dan, did you want to just send a reminder for the board?
Yeah, so sorry it's not on the slide here, but I will send it out to everyone. Again, we are seeking nominations, and so I'm going to send out a link for those of you that want to nominate yourself or nominate someone at your university or in the community to serve on the EAUC board. And then do you want to cover the reminder for the next meeting?
Yeah, and so our next webinar will be on Thursday, May 28th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be covering EDA's new metrics, our new data collection process that we've briefly touched on a couple of times, just kind of teasing it for those of you who have been on prior webinars. But we'll have Ksenia Shadrina speaking. She has been working on our new data collection tools for a couple of years now, and we're getting very close to being able to implement them. So we're going to have her on so that she can kind of talk you through the history of our data collection, kind of why we went through this process, where we're going, what the hopes are, and just to give you guys a chance to ask any questions you might have as far as what this means for you. So she'll be on, and she's excited to speak with all of you. So come ready with questions. So that'll be our next webinar. Dan, did you have anything to add?
No, just to translate, and everyone is already participating in the metrics. It's the GPRA data that's been collected since the second Bush administration. So you've been collecting and participating in the Government Performance Reporting Act. So this is the GPRA version 2, which I think is a great opportunity for us to look at the next generation.
Yes, we're modernizing all of our data. This is great. It's a good news story for everyone. So I don't see any other questions coming through. If anyone has any questions about anything, this is a great opportunity to raise that. I think that we've covered a lot here today, and hopefully you'll be thinking about potential nominations for EAUC's board. And we're always looking for ideas of webinar topics. So if there's anything you're interested in learning more about, please let me know. You can feel free to send me an email directly, bgrafton1@eda.gov. I'm interested in hearing what what topics are of interest to you guys. Or if you have a success story or something that you'd like to share from your University Center program, we'd love for you to have an opportunity to highlight that as well. So just feel free to reach out with any questions you have. But I don't see any other questions. So I think that's going to be it for today. We appreciate all of you calling in for this, and we will yield back the rest of your hour. Thank you.
Thank you all.